Alright, sorry it's the ethereal voice again, but it makes it a little bit easier for you to see what's going on if I'm not actually cropping this some in the video. So, this is comparison of simple and fractional distillation, and what we've got set up here is the simple distillation column first. So what we have is our condenser column. This is set up countercurrent, so the water comes in through the bottom, moves up to the top. I've got a 50 ml receiving flask, and I'm going to dunk it in ice water. Now, common mistake I see students make with the ice water. This is not a drink for you to drink. We need a lot of ice because this has to go on for a while. So make it about a 1-to-1 ratio. Now, you're going to see people say online that you shouldn't be clamping here, you should be clamping at the neck of the flask. They are correct. You should be clamping it there, but we don't have those types of clamps. So we're going to clamp it here in the center. Now, when you attach any two pieces of glassware, make sure you've got some grease in there to make sure the glass doesn't seize. And we're going to attach a cat clip when we're ready to start doing the distillation. Now, this is set up for a simple distillation, meaning that there is no fractionating column or pat column between our distilling flask and our still head. Now, the way we're going to set this up is that first we're going to add our 50 mLs of the 50% ethanol water mixture to a, in this case, 200 ml two-neck round bottom flask. Important thing here is that we also need to add boiling chips. And the reason we need to add boiling chips is that this glassware is actually pretty smooth. Even for the cheapest kits of glassware have actually pretty good, pretty smooth glassware. So we don't really get much boiling unless we put something on there that creates an impurity which results in boiling. So what we're going to add are just 2 to 3 boiling stones. And what kind of trips people up about these is that the boiling stones themselves are actually very, very small. So really that's about 5 or 6 right there. So I just need the 3. I'm going to plunk them down. And since I'm going to need these for the next video anyway, I'm just going to chunk these remaining 3 to the flask. And now I'm ready to go. All I need to do is attach this to the glassware. So I'm going to lower this down so that my receiving flask is in the ice water. I'm going to attach my 250 ml, and on the back of this furnace here is a screw that lets me raise it up and attach it to the bottom. Now, this side arm here is going to be very useful. Now, some people will try to measure the still head going through the top. This is actually a pretty unreliable number because it depends on a lot of things. How long you've been distilling, radiative heat effects, things like that. So, do that if you need to. But honestly, the best way to measure the boiling point here is to stick it so that your tip of your thermometer is just inside the solution. And this will give you a much more accurate reading of what's going on in terms of the distillation. So now I'm ready to go. I'm going to crank it to 9 or 8. I'm not going to go all the way. If you ever do 100%, you run the risk of damaging the heating elements. We're also going to turn the water on here. Now, because we're working with such small quantities with this 1922 glassware, we actually don't need any more than that kind of flow rate. Now, this being a 50-50 mixture, it's going to distill pretty quick. That said, I'm pretty sure you don't want to watch me literally boiling water and ethanol. So I'm going to cut the video now, and I'm going to put it, kind of bring us back up when it comes to relevant points in the distillation. Alright, so we're about 5-10 minutes into the distillation. What we're seeing right now is this vapor layer is starting to move up, and there's a good strong boil over the boiling stones. So the next thing we're going to see is the wetting of the distillation head before we start seeing liquid start moving through the column. Now, this is going to be a big issue when we start getting fractional distillation, because before we can get any liquid down here in the receiving flask, we have to get all the surfaces here wet with the distilling liquid. And because of that, when we look at something like fractional distillation, with fractional distillation, we're going to end up losing a lot more of our material simply because we're losing it to the distillation column itself. All right, so what you can see here is we've started wetting the distillation head, and you can see the liquid starting to move over. So now we're at a point where we will expect more rapid distillate to come over and actually begin to see drops form in the receiving flask. So we're going to let this go until we get roughly 15-ish milliliters. This is just kind of a gauge. It's not a perfect number. But yeah, if we look at the distillation right now, it's heading off about 82 degrees C. So this is what we'd expect for a 50-50 mixture.